It was just after dusk when Daniel Reed, a single dad with weary eyes and a heart still learning how to heal, pulled his old Ford into the parking lot of St. Mary's Hospital. He was there to pick up his son, Alex, who had just finished volunteering at the children's wing. The boy loved reading to sick kids, and Daniel couldn't say no, not when it gave Alex something to smile about after his mother walked out 2 years ago. As he stepped out of his truck, he noticed a small figure on the curb just outside the hospital doors. At first he thought she was sitting, but then he realized, she wasn't moving. A girl, maybe 8 or 9 years old, slumped over in a thin pink sweater despite the chill. Daniel didn't even think. He rushed to her side, kneeling down. "Hey, sweetheart. Can you hear me?" he said, shaking her shoulder gently. Her eyelids fluttered, her breath shallow. People walked by. Some spared a glance but kept moving. Daniel's heart broke at the sight of her, alone, fragile, and clearly in trouble. He scooped her up in his arms and bolted through the hospital doors, shouting for help. A nurse rushed over and wheeled her away as Daniel stood there, catching his breath. "What's her name?" the nurse asked. I don't know. She was outside. Alone, Daniel stammered. The nurse frowned. Nobody claimed her. No parent? Daniel shook his head, his gut tightening. She's just a kid. Someone should have been watching her. Hours passed. Daniel waited. He couldn't bring himself to leave. Alex sat next to him, quiet, clutching his father's hand. Finally, the doctor came out. "She's stable now," he said. "But she's malnourished, dehydrated, and she's been out here for days." "Did you say you found her outside?" Daniel nodded. The doctor sighed. "We've called CPS. She's a foster child. Apparently ran away from her latest placement. Been sleeping behind the dumpsters." Daniel felt something break inside him. Later that night, when Daniel peeked into her room, the girl opened her eyes and looked at him. "You're the one who carried me," she whispered hoarsely. "That's right," he said softly. "You scared me half to death, kiddo." She tried a faint smile. "I'm sorry. I just didn't want to go back, to that house. They didn't like me." Daniel knelt by her bed, tears stinging his eyes. He thought of Alex, who had cried himself to sleep for months after his mom left. And now this little girl, running from a world that had failed her. "I know what it's like to feel like nobody wants you," he murmured. "But I promise you, you're not alone anymore." The next morning, Daniel made a quiet phone call. Then another. Then another. It took weeks of paperwork, home visits, and proving himself. But one sunny afternoon, as Alex waited on the porch bouncing on his heels, the caseworker finally pulled into the driveway, with the little girl, wearing a brand new dress and clutching a small stuffed bear. She climbed out of the car, and her eyes met Daniel's. "Ready to come home?" he asked, his voice catching. She nodded, and for the first time in years, she ran, straight into his arms. That night, after tucking both kids into bed, Daniel stood in the doorway, watching them sleep. His heart felt full in a way he didn't think was possible anymore. Sometimes, he thought, kindness wasn't just about helping someone else. Sometimes, it was about saving yourself, too. Because in reaching out to a stranger that night outside the hospital, he hadn't just given her a family, he'd found his own healing. And for the first time in years, Daniel believed it, there is always hope. Even on the coldest nights, even in the loneliest places, someone cares enough to stop, pick you up, and carry you towards something better. You never know when your smallest act of kindness can change someone's life, or even your own. Because the family we create through love and compassion is sometimes even stronger than the one we're born into.